Hi, and thanks for tuning in to the CBA Podcast, a place where we chat about our own recent achievements in the area of electronics, software and mechanical engineering, and more likely than not, give excuses for not having done anything at all. This week we, or rather I, will be talking about iTunes registration again, Faire Dortmund and my project for that, soldering some resistors to a board, PCB manufacturing, Piotr's Arduino, and the Arduino bootloader. So, once again a solo episode, and at this point I start to question my sanity for doing this. Piotr doesn't have time, he's a very busy man, but when he does have time I'm expecting a super mega project to emerge, so we will see how that goes. I'll be talking a little bit about what I did last couple of weeks and about some news. First of all, it's not big news, but it's big news for me. I registered this podcast with iTunes finally, which sounds simple but turned out to be a little bit more difficult than I thought. I had to jump through quite some hoops to get that done, but finally it's up for review, so let's forget all the past, and it's up now, so we'll see. Maybe the number of listeners will double, which means it would go from 1 to 2, probably. Last time also I talked about Faire Dortmund, the Faire Ruhr in Germany, among other Fairs, and that's the one that's closest by. It's going to be 10 and 11 March 2018. I registered for that on the last day. I'm not really quite sure what I'll be doing there, but at least I'll be showing my 1-bit 1-instruction transistor CPU, which I already showed at Faire Berlin and Hanover and Eindhoven. Still an ongoing project, and this gives me the chance, or rather the stimulus, to make some improvements. It's a baseboard with plug-in modules on it. What I want to do is redesign the plug-in modules. There are some flaws. Remove some plug-in modules, make it simpler. Change the enclosure, change the LED matrix display, change the interface, remove the need for a host PC to run as RAM and ROM, and basically make it also cheaper, because I did a little calculation yesterday what it would take to make one new prototype of this, and of course if you make 3 or 5 or 10 or 20 the cost goes down considerably, but for one prototype I think I'm looking at €500 for only PCB, so that's a bit ridiculous. Usually I order PCBs also for work at a local PCB manufacturer. Local, I mean in Europe, and people I can actually talk to. But I'm looking at, for this hobby stuff, I'm looking at something that's a little bit cheaper. And also I don't want to wait for 2 months. I know there are very cheap PCB manufacturers, but the waiting time is a month, so that's ridiculous. I'm not doing that. I think 2 days waiting for a PCB is already long, feels long. So 1 week would be nice. But I'm trying to cut the cost in half, something like that, 1/2 of 1/3. So that's that. For the rest I didn't do that much. This is going to be quite a short episode, of course. I did some soldering of power resistors to soldered wires between them, and I mounted them on a big metal laser cut plate to form a 1 ohm 200 watt resistor, and that's for a load test. I want to check if a relay can break and make a load, and if the current surge doesn't cause interference with digital logic around the relay. That's why I made this thing, but it should come in handy at other tests and projects. So it just looks nice. It's minimal work, but looks nice. And finally again, Piotr sent me an Arduino Nano. I don't know if it's an original or a clone. It's a little bit sad that they're making clones of this thing, but whatever. It's basically, I think, one CPU on a board, maybe LDO. It's I wasn't too eager to start with that because I expected that getting the build environment running on Linux would be more difficult because I think it's tailored to Windows for some reason, but I'm not sure how true that is. So finally just installed some stuff. It's quite intuitive. Get a build environment. I run Arch Linux here. So the build environment for Arduino is conveniently contained within a package. Install that package and start the IDE. Get a graphical IDE. What I did was test communication with the board. That seemed to be working. And then just take your standard LED blinky program and change a timeout from 1 second to 2 seconds. Then observe that it worked. And then toss it aside. So job done. One thing I'm semi-interested in is the bootloader of the Arduino, and not so much the Arduino specifics, but the mechanism. So to be honest, for stuff that contained a microcontroller in products, I never included a bootloader. I think I never included. I didn't even know if I ever made one. Chips are either pre-programmed or programmed in the factory through a header. So I never really had a need for a bootloader because I think none or almost none of the products I make have a serial or mass storage interface, so you can update them in the field. So there was not really the need for a bootloader. While it's convenient to use one USB connector to your target for both debugging, so serial output while it actually runs, and uploading firmware. So maybe at some point I'll look into that. Just for fun, make something that works. So that was all for now. For more information, links and previous episodes, visit podcast.cba.si. Stay tuned, thanks for listening, and goodbye.